Hello, friends. Waiting here just a minute for a few more people to jump on board. It's a beautiful mid-September day here in North Carolina. High of maybe 75 degrees, something like that. Beautiful, beautiful time of year. Except that we can't jump in our pool because it's too cold. Wish we had a heated pool, which we do not. All right, I'm going to get started. Thank you for joining me today. This is Daily Art Adventure number 716. I'm actually going to do this twice today. This is going to be a very different broadcast from normal. This is going to be pure didacticism. Is that a word? Pure teaching from beginning to end. One of the reasons I teach is because I want to understand myself how to paint better. And I certainly invite all of you to chip in with your comments as I go along. As you can see there, I've entitled this A Lesson in Real Painting. And the word real is in capital letters, but it's also in quotation marks, which means I have a lot of gall, which means I realize that I have a lot of nerve to call this real painting. Let me say, first of all, that I'm a lifetime student of the mysteries of two-dimensional, drawing and painting, two-dimensional beauty. And let me acknowledge that by simply using the word beauty, I've triggered everybody in the academy, that is all the professors in the universities, art departments around the world, Western world anyway. So trigger away. The mystery. So let me acknowledge, first of all, that I don't claim to know everything. I just have some strong hunches about some things. I want to share those with you. Those of you who are regular listeners or viewers, you'll recognize a lot of these thoughts. I just feel like I've come to a new level of understanding, or I hope a new level of an ability to describe what I often call real painting. I'm going to do several demonstrations here. And forgive me, I'm going to adjust another camera. If this broadcast goes well, I will actually be producing an edited version of this as well, just because I feel like this might be really significant for myself describing. All right, I'm going to begin. I have a piece of charcoal in my hand. I'm going to begin by drawing a simple line. You can see how that was done. You can see there's a little tiny hook here at the bottom end of it. Hello, Barbara. Good to have you here. You can see that as this piece of soft vine charcoal is dragged across the paper, it got wider and wider. All right. Look at that line, if you will. Hello, Deborah. Good to have you here. I have here some Post-it notes. I'm going to do a bunch of crazy exercises with Post-it notes. Hello, Monique. Good to have you here. And these are actually little stacks of Post-it notes. I think 3 to a stack, so that they're all quite opaque. You can't see through them at all. If you think you can see through them, that's your imagination. It's quite a thick stack. All right. How many of you can still see the line? That's a stupid rhetorical question. You can all see the line. And I don't mean, can you see parts of the line? What I mean is, does your brain still see that as one continuous line? And I'm going to contend that without any trouble whatsoever, yes, your brain does that quite well. Now, the question I have here for all of us is, at what point does this line disappear. And I'll bet that at this point, all of us can still see the line. And we can still see the line. Now, getting pretty sketchy. Can we still see it as a line? No. Now we see it as a very short line. But I'm going to, there. I'm going to suggest that our eyes, really, when I say the eye, I mean the seeing part of our brain. I'm going to suggest that the seeing part of our brain actually perceived that as a continuous line for quite a long time. All right, but some of you smart people are saying, oh, no, wait a minute. The reason we're seeing this as a line is because we all saw it first as a line, and then as you covered it up, our memory was engaged. Good point. Therefore, I have demonstration number 2. This time, I have something already covered up. And I'm going to expose this thing one square at a time. And if you're watching me today, I want you to feel free to chime in. Let me know when you can see what's under these squares. Can you see anything yet? The answer is no. All you know that there's nothing there and there's nothing out here. So you might say, well, it could be a circle, and you would be right to say that. Ooh, but as soon as I do that, you go, well, so much for the circle idea. 8, 7. Make sure I do these in order. Ooh. Anybody have a guess? I will give you a hint, okay? It's not a picture of, the Rock of Gibraltar or Taj Mahal or a rose or a tree. It's a fairly simple, I don't want to say geometric, that give too much information away, but the first thing I drew was a line. This is like the next level. Okay, anybody want to take a guess? What is it? Anybody want to guess now? Whoops. There we go. Anybody want to take a guess now? What is, hang on just a second. Let me get a piece of tape so that doesn't fall down. And I can edit this part out if I decide to edit this. There we go. All right, anybody want to take a guess? I don't see any guesses yet. Okay. Barbara, very good guess. Very good guess. You could call it a rectangle, or you could call it even simpler than that. Anybody? Barbara, close. There are no surprises coming here. That's right, exactly, Barbara. It's a square. And I just got static, so bear with me a minute. There we go. All right. It is indeed a square. A square with a shadow. And artistically, creatively, beach life, suspense is killing me. Me too. Now, can we back that up just a little bit? Let's go back. Some of you were timid about making a bold guess. But if you weren't timid, I think you could say, yeah, that's a square. I see it. It's easy. No, unless you thought I was going to put like a lizard sneaking out from, something bizarre, or, a skull on top of the square, which I'm not doing. It's just a real simple image. Then you say, oh yeah. Now, point number 1 that I want you to get from both these exercises. Let's go back to this one for a minute. Your eye still perceived this as a line, even when more than half of the line was covered up. Your mind easily saw this as a square when arguably up to half of it was covered. Here's a key point. I'll go back to the first one. Your mind had more fun, if I can use that word. Your mind has more synapses are firing. I usually say a little tiny drop of joy juice, bzing, got released in your brain when you saw this as a solid straight line, more than when you actually saw this. Do you understand? Here you see a solid, I call it a straight line, a curve, a natural, organic, right-handed. You can actually tell that a right-handed person did that mark. I'm contending, let me just slap these up here again, anyway, that this is more exciting to your brain than this. I'm contending that seeing this square is more fun to your brain, more joy juice, more aesthetic pleasure released in your brain when you saw this than when you saw this, even though I tried to draw that square in a fairly, artistic manner. All right, lesson number 1 is done. Let's move on now. Let's see if we take this basic principle and expand it just a little bit. Now, I'm going to do, forgive me, this is going to be scary. I'm going to do a very simple drawing of a figure. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm going to do a male figure. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to go this way. In case you're getting nervous, I'll make him unclothed down to the waist. I won't go any further than that, just so that we don't have to put any special addendum on this video. Right? There's legs. Now, isn't that just beautiful? Come on, most beautiful figure. And I'm going to do a little bit of shading now with a piece of vine charcoal. And I'm going to do a little bit of blending, just so we have just a bare suggestion of form here. As you can see, I'm not working really hard to try to make this particularly beautiful. I just want you to see essentially a human-ish shape with some shading. Okay, shoulders are kind of hunched a little bit. That's what I was thinking early on. A little bit of the diaphragmatic arch there, a little bit of a six-pack, and that's probably good enough, right? Just imagine a very simple abstract figure. Okay, I have here a kneaded eraser. Now I want you to watch that figure. Let me know when the figure no longer looks like a figure. Let me know when the figure disappears. All right, now you can see I've got a problem here. I practiced this, by the way. I knew this was going to be an issue, so I'm not sorry. I have a problem, and that is that the eraser doesn't erase completely, so you can still see the figure. Okay, but how about if I take this blending tool and essentially do the same kind of marks I was doing with the eraser, but now do them with the charcoal and a blending tool. I'm still asking the same question. Let me know when the figure disappears. How many of you can say no? Would say with me, no, I can still see a figure in there. I mean, he's pretty, you know, I don't know what he's in. some kind of striped fog, mist, jungle, tangle of something. Now let's see if he's disappeared now. All right, I'm going to say he's essentially disappeared. Now, maybe in the edited version, I might stop here right now and reverse the tape, so to speak, and do it backwards. I can't do it live. But it doesn't take me much to come in here with that eraser again and just do a few strokes. And suddenly, there's our man again. Are you with me? Okay, now the point I want to make is it does not take much information for us to see a figure, certainly. You know, where our eyes are more geared to seeing a figure than almost anything in the world, perhaps next to a face. In fact, you all know that our mind is so geared to seeing patterns, and especially organic, you know, humans and animals and so on and so forth. Our mind is so geared to seeing order, in fact, where there isn't any, that actually can cause us problems sometimes in our natural living. But I'm just going back and forth here. Is it not amazing how much I can obliterate? I'm just basically doing the same thing again, okay? How much I can obliterate. I can still see a human there. All right, now some of you, again, are saying, yes, but this doesn't count because we saw the human first in our memory. We saw the figure first, and our memory is retaining it, even though you covered up. Aha, I knew you were going to say that. You can hardly say I'm tricking you because I've done the same exercise, almost exactly the same thing, 2 times in a row now. Here we go again. Now, I'm going to give you a big hint. Behind these squares is a drawing, simple pen and ink, real loose pen and ink drawing that I did of, okay, it's a person. It's either a figure or a face. And I want you to yell as soon as you can recognize not only, well, first of all, is it a figure or a face? That's number 1. And number 2, who is it? Whoa! Yes, I mean literally, literally. Anybody want to take a guess? Anybody know who it is already? Wait just a second. I can edit this part out. Dum bum 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 do 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 do. Jeopardy hymn. Bum 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 da dum bum 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 bum. Keychain. Bum 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 bum. Okay, that's enough. Anybody want to take a guess? Yes, it is a face. Thank you, Deborah. Whose face is it? Dun, da, 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 da. My mother. Travis says. All right. No, it's not your mother. Okay. I need to wait there. Alex. No, it's not Alex. Okay, I'm going to take off one more. Way up here. Am I going in order? Yep. Okay, that didn't help you much, did it? Especially if I tell you that this part of the drawing is very loose. You want to take a guess? Aha! Good job, Artist Ross. You're exactly right. Woohoo! He said Abe. Abe, who? Abraham Lincoln. Now, come on, let's go back. Wait, let me put this back. Yes, Deborah, you're exactly correct. Just Ross beat you by a second. Okay, now, come on. I just want you to acknowledge that you and human beings are crazy good at figuring out. Very good. It could be a Johnny Cash. That is a really good guess. It is, however, as you already heard, Abraham Lincoln. We didn't even have this much information. Let's go. If I'd gone this far, now you all say, well, come on. Now it's just too easy. You're exactly right. Okay, point. My point is, all of us, now I don't even have to remove the rest of these, right? I'll do it anyway. All of us saw that without any trouble as the face. In fact, you know what's funny? The camera that I'm using, a Mevo camera, has a face recognition function built into it. As soon as I took off the last, one of the last two squares, a little circle appeared on my monitor saying, the computer recognized it as a face. All right, are you with me? We could go backwards, if we wanted to, but I don't think we need to. I think I've made the point. What is the point? Point number one is that our minds, our brain, our eye sees, makes order with just a tiny bit of information. I guess I am putting all these back on, not all of them, but some of them. Where were we when artist Ross? We weren't even this far. I think we might have been this far when artist Ross. Think about that. That's about 1/3 or less than 1/3 of the drawing. And at least some of you not only saw this as a human being, of course, admittedly, I confess, I'm taking an iconic face in American history, right? And even outside America, people know the face of Abraham Lincoln. All right. So the point is, wow, our brain can take a tiny amount of information and extrapolate. This is going somewhere. Are you with me? I'm going to do one more. I'm going to change gears slightly. There's our man. He's still there, hiding back there when we ain't looking. We wonder what he's up to, don't we? All right, this is another one. But I'm changing. First of all, I'll tell you that I'm changing gears. Up until this point, with my, let me show you, with my straight line and with my curve, my Abraham Lincoln, one of the things I've been trying to impress upon you is our eyes perceive order, create a pattern, extrapolate with a very little bit of information. Our eyes extrapolate and complete the picture, finish the picture. The other thing I've tried to convey to you is that our eyes actually enjoy that process of extrapolation. Are you with me? Now, all of this is going to have huge bearing on our painting and drawing in a few minutes. Now, I'm changing lessons here. Now my teacherly didactic inclination, I said, okay, but there's something else I want to show you. And I'm not going to draw this one out. There we go. There's something underneath. You want to see what it is? Any guesses? No. Any guesses? No. Any guesses? No. Any guesses? You're still lost. And there's only one left. Oh! Well, I hope you feel a little exasperated. That would mean I've accomplished my goal. Did you or did you not experience a little bit of letdown? Because what is this a picture of? If you're seeing something, you're seeing something. I tried pretty hard to not make it look like anything. A tulip, a female figure. We can see a female figure in anything. No, it's nothing. It's just okay. My point is, you experienced just a little bit of letdown because when I did this one, you were playing a game and you were expecting a picture, and when a picture appeared, you went, "Yay! I got it!" when I did this one, you kind of went, what? Wait, what? Okay, I do want to make a point. I got interrupted briefly. Let me say that again. I want to make a point. And this is a big point, and it runs counter to most of what we've been taught for the last 110 years in the West. You with me? I want you to know, first of all, that in a sense, I know what I'm doing. I'm tromping around where angels fear to tread. I'm running against the prevailing art establishment of the last 110, 120 years. Because here's something I believe that the art establishment does not believe. All right, so those of you who think I'm ignorant, save your breath. In fact, I have over here on my, let me pick you up for a second. Now, I'm not an expert because I have a bunch of books. I have a bunch of books because I'm an expert. Okay, almost all the books on this shelf, not all of them, some of them are just art books. So they're tangentially related to the subject. Most of those are philosophy books, art of philosophy of art books. All right. Here's one right on top. Art and Culture by Clement Greenberg. Has my writing on the cover. I bought it as a used book, but all the orange highlighting and all the pencil writing in the margins is mine. So lest you think that I didn't read this book, I didn't read the last part too well because I didn't need to. He was done his arguing at that point. Clement Greenberg, a grumpy fellow who spent basically his entire life preaching to the Western Academy that pictures of things are passé, old-fashioned, negative, dark, damaging, not quite evil, because he didn't really believe in evil, but he said everything he could about picture painting except to calling it evil. It was stupid, it was inferior, because he lived in a particular, now if I had lived when he lived, I might have believed what he believed. He lived in a very particular period in human history where the human race was going through a big tidal wave. The camera had been invented, artists were no longer cameras, and much of the upheaval of the 20th century was learning that artists don't have to paint pictures anymore. And in that, Clement Greenberg was dead on. He was right. He was the canvas flat guy. He was one of the big canvas flat guys. He was right. And I have a hunch that the human race, the Western civilization, if you will, part of the human race, had to go through this cataclysmic adolescent temper tantrum in order to extricate, in art, in order to extricate itself from picture painting. And as usual, I mispronounce that word on purpose. Picture painting, the painting of pictures. For you non-English speakers, the word is picture. Artists are not in the business primarily of painting pictures. However, I think essentially Clement Greenberg and all of his ilk were more wrong than right, because human beings love pictures. And they especially love pictures painted by people. Whew. Please understand, those of you who are philosophically oriented or historically oriented, you're either really triggered or you're saying, yes, finally somebody's saying the truth. Or if you believe the Academy, then you're saying, this guy is ignorant. Well, again, my books don't show that I'm not ignorant. But it does show that, those are the kind of books that a person like me would actually own and read, okay? So don't throw that ignorant thing at me. I'm a hard-working artist, and I've come to disagree with the prevailing opinion of 20th century art establishment. Now, what gives me the nerve, the gall, the chutzpah to say such a thing? A whole bunch of things, but one is I believe in 100 years, essentially everybody will agree with me. So anyway, more chutzpah. All right, where do we go from there? The point here is this is not as satisfying to the human psyche as this is. All right, or even as where was our disappearing man? We find this more satisfying generally. And by the way, as you know, I am not an artist who doesn't like abstract painting. I do. I'm not at war with that. And go to my website, dannelsonart.com, click on paintings, and you'll find a whole album there full of, I think, 200 or 250 of my non-objective abstract paintings. So do you understand? This is not a rave from somebody who doesn't like abstract. I love abstract painting. Love it. Love doing it. Can't wait till I do my next one. But all things considered, the human psyche does not find this quite as satisfying as even a square or a face or a figure. All right. Let's move on from there. Some of you are recognizing, some of you regulars are saying, wait a minute, this is all stuff you've all said before. And I would say, guilty as charged. Some of you have heard this little lecture before. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Some of you have heard this before, and I'm not going to go over it at great length. I'm just going to mention that, yes, you've heard this before. This little diagram right here provides for me, and this is something that I developed, 10, 12, 15 years ago. And what I say is that the kind of artwork that human beings derive the greatest aesthetic pleasure from is artwork that combines the highest degree of history of human movement and meaning, which usually means realism, similitude, drawing a picture. And these two things are opposites, and the best art is that which pushes these two together, which is hard because if you have a lot of evident history of movement, it's hard to have realism. If you have realism, it's hard to have a transparent, obvious history. Now, that's as much as I'm going to say about this, other than to say this entire teaching lesson, if you will, is a restating of this with different words. All right? So point number one, our eye, let me zoom out again over here. Point number one, and if you're leaving chats, I hope you are. Point number one, our eye gets pleasure out of finishing the picture. You with me? Our eye, really I mean our brain, of course, our mind. There's a Pandora's box. Some of you, if you're a extreme materialist, you don't believe in the mind. That's all right. I'm not going to argue that today. We'll tackle that another time, okay? Maybe not on this channel. The mind derives more pleasure from finishing the picture than it does from a picture that's all finished. Okay, and where did my big curve go? The very first thing that I drew. Here we go. All right, let me just go back to make sure we're clear here. What I'm saying is, there's a finished curve. Our eye gets more fun out of extrapolating from less than complete information. Our eye enjoys seeing that as a curve. We get more pleasure than we do from seeing that. Now we do get some pleasure from seeing that. Now let's change gears again. The second thing I wanted to teach is that the human eye enjoys pictures. We got a bigger kick. Now this doesn't prove it, I'm just illustrating it. We got a little bit of disappointment with this revelation, this reveal, than we did with this reveal. And some of you might be saying, oh, there's other things that work, and I would agree, but I still believe that that's true. All things considered, human beings do like seeing pictures of things, okay? And by saying that, I'm disagreeing with good old Uncle Clement and a whole bunch of other people, but I'm not disagreeing out of ignorance. I'm disagreeing, I think, because I understand things they don't understand. All right, now let's take this again, one step further. And I have taken the liberty of printing out from my website an old self-portrait of me. I'm laughing because that's the only kind of self-portrait I can do, is a self-portrait of me. All right, you with me? So forgive me for the redundancy. This is a portrait that I did of myself. More redundancy, more redundancy. This is a portrait I did of myself about 10 or 12 years ago. And it's neither here nor there. I'm not saying it's great. It's downstairs in my studio on a shelf. I just did it for the pure exercise of doing it. Let me tell you a little bit. And I'm 12 years better than this now. But this is where I was 12 years ago. Now, this was my attempt at doing a tight, accurate self-portrait. And just for what it's worth, I did this entirely without any camera. No camera, no photograph, no cheating, no measuring, no nothing, okay? I did it in what I call the William Bouguereau Renaissance painting technique, grisaille, greenish gray underpainting, then color on top, and so on and so on and so forth. And this is back in the day when I had more hair here and a ponytail. I still like, and more dark in my beard. Now my beard's all white. All right, enough about that. I'm going to do a similar thing to what I did a little while ago, but this time I want to make another point. Up until now, I've been doing basically all of my, either my hidings or my reveals with Post-it notes. And that shows us one thing, but it doesn't show us an awful lot. So now I've got some gouache here. And I'm going to start making marks. So you can see already, you can see instantly the correlation between what I'm doing now and what I did with the Post-it notes. But there's a very, very significant difference between what I'm doing now and the Post-it notes. Okay, there's one very significant difference. The marks that I'm making now are organic. That is to say, they're made clearly by a human hand. These are bold strokes. These are free, spontaneous, organic marks. Does that make sense to you? I hope it does. These are painterly marks. I'm just mixing up a bunch of colors here. I've got a dull green. These are painterly marks. Okay, we just lost Dan Nelson. We still have a window over here. Let's take care of that here real quick. All right, now I could make the same statement and the same little tests I did a while ago, and in the edited version I could play this video backwards so we could say at what point do I completely disappear. But because this is gouache, I do happen to have another little trick up my sleeve, and that is a trick called a paper towel. You need to dip it in water, and we can kind of do that. What we just did a minute ago, we can do in reverse. Right, so the question would be, at what point does Dan Nelson's self-portrait reappear? And I'm going to make the same point that I made a while ago. I don't want to zoom in really tight here. That's just, no, let me pick you up for a minute and zoom you in even closer. I want to get it so there's no border. So you're just seeing the image, right? Hang on just a second. I'm going to zoom in also on the other camera. Bear with me for just a minute. Hang on, hang on, hang on. All right, and as you saw, there we go. As you saw, I did not labor or belabor. I did not work really hard to try to create just the right amount of abstraction. I just made marks really quickly, as I'm again doing now. I did positive, then removed, negative. Now I'm doing positive again, adding. And again, I hope you understand. I'm not trying to accidentally create a masterpiece. I'm trying to create a revelation for you all. Back to the paper towel again. There are several things that should be registering. Okay, now that 2 eyes is almost too much. Let me cover one of those eyes, at least partway up again. There should be a couple revelation, a couple ahas. I can't, there we go. A couple ahas. One is like, wow, that's amazing. Even with so much of the image covered up, my mind still sees Dan Nelson's self-portrait. Okay, so reality number one, wow, is the first lesson we learned tonight. Wow, you do not need very much information to see my face. Are you with me? Lesson number two, that in fact, an image done in this manner is all things considered, all things being equal, is more interesting than an abstract swoosh or an abstract box or an abstract. Forgive the redundancy. All right? Third, this is a new point. I'm doing something now that I couldn't do. Let me just keep doing it a little bit. Doing something now that I couldn't do with Post-it notes. The Post-it notes were all either square or rectangle, very, very stilted. Whereas the marks that I'm making now, again, and I'm not working hard to try to create a thing of beauty. Now I'm trying to create a thing of insight, if you will. The marks that I'm making here are interesting, more interesting than Post-it notes. That's the third, one of the third big lessons I want to convey, and that again, that goes back to my. Let me go back to the previous page, and hang on. Let me zoom back out here on a couple different cameras so I can show you. Let me take this page down. 3 things I want to register thus far in this lesson. Number 1, our eye gets more joy out of extrapolating from little information and finishing the picture. Number 2, our eyes, in fact, do enjoy pictures more than non-pictures. And that flies in the face. And again, I am not an abstract hater, right? And number 3, this history, this word right here, so I'm going back to my previous teaching, history, that is to say, of human movement. So you wouldn't know what I meant by history unless I finished the sentence for you. So let me finish it. And again, this is review for you regular followers of my channel. History of human movement. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, it's all the marks that I just made on top of my portrait. They were all clear and transparent histories, if you will, of movement. So if I take this red pencil right here and go like this, I just made a movement with my arm and my hand, my shoulder, my whole body, in fact, holding a pencil that made this mark. And if you were here in my studio, I could hand you, well, I could put all the, let's get more fun. I could show you this jar of pencils that I say I made this mark with one of these, and you go, oh, that's easy, it's this one. And I would say, yeah, and how sharp was it? You'd say, well, it started over here kind of sharp, and now it's kind of dull. So I think we need to sharpen it a little bit. So you would grab a sharpener out of my desk, and you'd say, I think it's a little bit sharper when you started. Yeah, more like that. And even though I can't do it fast, I can do slow. Now, some of you who are not followers, you'd say, well, you went like this. And some of you regulars, you go, no, 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 he didn't. He went like this. You see, not this, this. You can tell that I didn't go this way if you thought about it for a while. It's obvious I went this way, because this is what flows for a right-handed person. If I was a left-handed person, no. You'd probably conclude a right-handed person did that. All right, point is, This is a history of human movement. Now, why does a history of human movement please us? I've drawn this little diagram before. I'm going to turn the page over and explain why. Because every time that you or I see a mark that was clearly and obviously made by a human being, and we can almost always tell, you know, what kind of tool they used, whether they did it left hand, right hand. We can tell whether they did it hesitantly and slowly and carefully, or whether they did it with great abandon. Every time we see a mark like that, it's like a signpost stuck in the ground of that painting, and it says, the sign says, somebody like me was here. All right, are you with me? Every time, let me take another color just so I don't get confused. Let's take a purple. Left hand this time. Every time we see a mark, that it's a clear, obvious mark, when we see this, if this was done left-handed, it touches what some people call our lizard brain, our precognitive cortex. I'm not sure I'm saying the right thing, you know. It's probably actually the medulla oblongata, the spinal cord part of our brain. We look at this and it's like it touches a deep part of our psyche, preconscious. It says, ooh, somebody like me. That is to say, another human being with arms, legs, movements, so on and so forth, like me, was here and made this mark. Are you with me? That's why the kind of art that moves us most deeply is kind that has a clear, manifest, obvious historical marks in it. All right? So where do we go from there? I'm going to talk about a little bit of art history. I have here samples. I printed them out because it's more fun to show you like this than it is to just talk about it. Okay? In the edited version of this, I'm not sure, I might pull these up. I won't pull this one up here because I don't want to be guilty of criticizing some very fine people. But I will just tell you, this is labeled hyper-realistic paintings and drawings. All you have to do is pick up your phone or your computer, your laptop, your iPad, your tablet, and type in the words hyper-realistic paintings and drawings. And you'll see some of these same ones and a whole bunch of others. And I'm assuming that you all have seen this kind of thing already, probably some of these same exact images, okay? This is a painting, pencil drawing, painting, painting, and painting. And they're very small. I'm not showing you them in high detail. By the way, I'm going to change here. Yes, I am going to pick on this guy because he's a friend of mine. Still a friend, and I have great admiration. This is a photograph. This is not a photograph. In fact, if you Google the words, if you go to, again, pick up your device and type in the words, this is not a photograph, and hit images, this is one of the images that will come up. Okay? This was done by my good friend, old friend, Drew Blair, D-R-U. He's one of those D-R-U Drews. Drew Blair, the best airbrush artist in the world. That's a mouthful, but I'm going to stand by that. And most people in the airbrush world would say, yeah, so what else is new? I knew Drew. He lived in Raleigh when I moved here 30 years ago, and he left probably 23 years ago maybe now. But I had the distinct honor and pleasure of actually working for him a little bit, with him, and watching him work. Just a little bit, let me brag on my friend just for a minute. He earned a Master of Fine Arts degree from the University of South Carolina, I believe it was. Then he spent 8 years doing airbrush t-shirts on Myrtle Beach. I believe it was 8 years. Drew, you correct me if I'm wrong. And that's how we became the best airbrush artists in the world. In other words, he worked his blankety blank buns off. That's how you got so good, okay? And this is a painting of a young lady named Tika or Taika. I'm not sure. I think it's Tika. And it's hilarious, by the way. If you Google this, again, just Google, this is not a photograph, or Google Drew Blair and Tika, T-I-C-A. You'll find this. And in the comments, there's all kinds of hilarious, ignorant people that say, that's not a photograph. And you can blow this up huge. I mean, you're seeing a small version of you. You can blow it up huge. And there's people saying, well, you can tell it's a photograph. What, did I say that right? That's not a painting, that's a photograph. That's what they say. That's not a painting, that's a photograph. And you can't tell by this small little thing right here. But they'll say, well, look, you can see the what's it called? The prismatic shift created by the lens in the camera on her diamond earrings, or whatever they are. The jewels in her earrings, like there's a little prismatic, one edge is slightly blue, the other edge is slightly yellow or red. All right, and they say, see, that's proof that it's a photograph. And those of us who know Drew just laugh our fool heads off. No, this is a painting. Says he took him 70 hours. Anyway, so there's a couple of things I want to say. First of all, there's some people that believe that realism is the measure of quality in art. That's all right. Let them think that, okay? One of the points I want to make is that unless you really drank all the Kool-Aid, forgive me for being really kind of rude here for a minute, but if you in fact earned probably an MFA degree, that means you drank the art establishment Kool-Aid to the dregs. And if that's you, then you probably look down upon super realistic art. That's a detour. I don't want to take that too deep. But the establishment, anyway, they consider that representational or realistic art is retrograde, backwards, old-fashioned, quasi-religious, conservative, traditional. I reject all of those terms emphatically, with understanding. Because I do representational art, I am not backwards. I'm the rebel against. In fact, I'm the rebel against the art establishment. But anyway, I digress. The fact is, unless you're a deep Kool-Aid drinker, you kind of get a kick out of this. If you admit it, there's some part of you goes, and again, you can't see them big enough to be impressed, but there's some part of you goes, golly. I don't know why I suddenly become, part of Andy of Mayberry when I do these, It's so that I won't say, God damn it! and then my mom, who's not watching, hopefully, but you get the point. There's some part of us that goes, holy marshmallows, Batman. Right? There is some part of us, admit it, unless you are a deep Kool-Aid drinker, there's some part of you that thinks this is cool. And I do too, okay? I'm usually railing against this kind of stuff, even though my good friend Drew did this one. I go, yeah, it's good. Do you hear big butt coming? There is a big butt coming. Okay? Oh, by the way, before we go there, let's look at some historical examples. So those are all contemporary examples of hyperrealism. Now these, I am a little bit more likely to show blow-up versions of this in the edited version. So we'll see. That remains to be seen. But let me just give you a quick tour. Here's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 samples of what I would call hyperrealism from the classical era. Well, except for he's contemporary, or almost contemporary. First of all of these hyperrealisms are, can I use that word? All of these are extreme imitations of photography. Big issue. Doesn't mean it's bad, you understand? Just register that. Just hyper-realistic art is hyper-photographic art. All of these, except for this one, were done before the invention of the camera. Well, okay, the camera was invented when Bouguereau was. But let me give you a quick tour, just for fun. I have a little story to go with each of these. First of all, this is Jan van Eyck, Dutch, and I forget it, you can Google it, Jan, J-A-N, Jan van Eyck, E-Y-C-K, the marriage of the Arnolfini wedding. Okay? Some historians credit Jan van Eyck with being the inventor, quote unquote, of oil painting. Now, of course, then as soon as somebody says like that, then 14 people got their PhD last year who showed that that's not true. But blah, blah, blah. Welcome to the academy. Be that as it may, some people say he did. Doesn't matter. But when I look at this painting, I can feel, I can identify with this guy. In fact, I can identify with all these guys. They are saying, look at this. Look, read it and weep, everybody. Marvel, grovel before me. I am a god. Look what I can do, because it's hyper-realism. Now, this one right here, I have a special story about this. This is a huge painting. I include, this is not a good rendering because I wanted to show a person. That's a real human being right there, standing in front of this painting. This painting I've seen live in person, which I can't say for most of these, but I have seen this. This is in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. Okay, in fact, I've seen it twice, 2 different trips to Amsterdam. It's the Rembrandt Museum, but this is not a Rembrandt painting, but it's a contemporary of his. Look at the size. I forget, it's 20 feet, I think, by 8 or 10 feet. No, I think it's 8 by 20 or 25 feet. You can look this up. I forget who it's by. The guy, it's his greatest work, but I can't remember his name. Isn't that terrible? I remember clearly standing in front of him. When I was there, I don't think they had this little barricade down here, because I think I walked up and nearly put my nose on this thing because I'm a weird artist. And honestly, there is fur, feathers, fins, leather, fabric, metal, every kind of texture that this group of people is wearing, and you're 6 inches away from it and would swear that if you went like this on the guy's armor, it would go clang, clang, clang. I mean, it is that realistic, and it's 25 by 8 feet. Come on. I mean, let me go back to this page. Okay, this stuff's impressive. Okay, first of all, they used photography, and on some level, it doesn't hold a candle to this painting right here. First of all, it's not 25 feet by 8 feet, and this is hyper realistic, every inch of it. All right, this is the Lady of Shalott. Oh boy, is it Waterhouse? Is it Sir Tadema? I forget. Anyways, one of the pre-Raphaelites, that's the whole story. Here, this is one of my favorites right here. This is William Bouguereau. And boy, there's a lot of naked people in there. Very careful not to show any male genitalia, but boy, we'll show you lots of female stuff. And that's just kind of art history, isn't it? That's... and look at going through this, oh, never mind. I'll not take that detour. Just lots of nipples and lots of buns. Male buns and female buns, but lots of female nipples. That's been going on for a long time, folks. Long time. And I love Bouguereau's technique, even though part of me, you know, I feel about Bouguereau kind of the way I do about these guys. Do you understand? But dang, you can't help but be impressed. If you're not impressed, and this is a huge painting also, if you're not impressed by this, then you're just grumpy. You just need to take some anti-grumpy pills. Forgive me for being so blunt. You probably got a degree in art, and you believed all the crap they told you. So now when you look at this stuff, it makes you feel kind of sick. Well, the problem is not with the stuff. It's the stuff you drank. Okay, forgive me, but I'm telling you the truth. Somebody has to do it. All right, enough of that. Here's Hans Holbein the Younger, portrait of Henry VIII. Henry VIII, you know, beheaded more wives than I'm trying to think of a guy in the 20th century, a famous guy that has a lot of wives, you know. Forget it, you know. He beheaded more wives than most profligate men have wives. Anyway, so if you're doing a portrait of Henry VIII, don't you think it probably better be good? Because if he doesn't care a rip for knocking the head off his wife, he's not going to care anything more about knocking the head off a painter that does a bad job. That just is hilarious. This is Socrates. Oh, good grief! I'm drawing a blank. I should. Is it? Um, what's his name? Oh, see, I should have written it down here. And this, I'll come back to that later, but doesn't matter. Hyperrealism. And this, 20th century, this is Andrew Wyeth. I threw him in because he's a watercolorist and a hyperrealist and a very moody painter, very popular painter. Different category than all the rest of these, different era of history, but still super, super realist. All right, so all of realism. Is it fun? Yes. Is it good? Yes. Does it take a form of intelligence? If your answer to that is no, then you've just drunk too much Kool-Aid. The same Kool-Aid I was talking about. If you think, and which book is it here? I've actually got a book right here. Oh yeah, Modern Artists on Art. Here it is. I can almost point to it. Oh yeah, Glazes and Metzinger, Cubism, 1912. Here's you can tell I read this. You can tell I read this and argued with these knuckleheads all the way through. These guys, some of the founders of Cubism, they go out of their way to be rude, reductionist, grumpy. They say realism doesn't take any skill at all. No skill, no skill, no skill. Well, they're idiots. I'm sorry. They died. They wrote that over 100 years ago. And forgive me for being just so blunt, but they're just wrong. It does take some skill. Okay, you hear big butt coming? There's still a big butt coming, right? So is it good? Is it fun? Does it jangle some part of your psyche? The answers to all those is yes, it does. It takes a form of intelligence. By the way, I have that form of intelligence. Go to my website, dannelsonart.com, click on paintings or illustrations, better yet, illustrations, and look at some of my airbrush or my automotive. Even some of my portraiture is hyper-realistic. It's fun. For me, it's like doing a jigsaw puzzle. You sit on your butt for a long time, put on some pretty music. It's going to take hours and hours and hours, but it's relaxing. Realism is just like Zen-induced alpha state. Oh, this is so much fun. Realism is fun. That I can do it. Okay, so I'm not, again, just like I'm not a person who rails against abstract, because I do non-objective abstract painting, nor am I one who rails against realism, because sometimes I do it, it's fun. But, it's big but coming. Is it the best? And I contend that it is not the best. It does ring a bell in our psyche, in our mind, in our soul, somewhere. When we look at any of this stuff, realism, it does. I told you I stood in front of this painting for a good 30 minutes with my jaw hanging open. It was fun. But is it the highest fun? Is it the deepest jangle? I talk about jangling your soul. Is it the deepest jangle available in the art experience? And my answer is a resounding no. So now, my deepest apologies to all of my hyper-realistic artist friends. If that's you, I do apologize. What is then? What does create the deepest jangle in our souls, to use that term? The answer is, back to this diagram, a convergence of these two opposing forces. Realism, I've talked about this diagram before, why I don't use the word realism, but I use the word meaning. Watch one of my other videos. A convergence of history, usually realism and movement, artistic stroke, hand-arm movement, history of movement, together creates the highest level of pleasure. All right? So now, let me show you some art that I think accomplishes that. Should I start contemporary or should I start historical? I'm going to start historical as soon as I find my historical samples. Oh, they're in this pile somewhere. All right? So let's do some history. I'm going to end up doing some contemporary stuff. Oops. All right, I'm going to edit the heck out of this part of this video. I am not finding my samples of, okay, bear with me for just a minute. I'm going to go over here to my computer and I'm going to print out a page. So bear with me, forgive me for just a minute. Shouldn't take too long to get this thing printed out. Dan's stuff, art classes, Real painting is the name of this class. Oh, I wonder if I failed to print this out. Okay, this is unusual. Here's what we're going to do. Sorry, I've got somebody calling in when they're not supposed to. Bear with me just a minute again, and I'm not going to print this out. I'm going to actually point you at my computer screen, okay, which is pretty bush league. I will fix this in the edited version. Hang on. I know you can hear my voice, but hang on. Let's try 140%. There we go. All right, I'm going to turn you guys around. Bear with me. This is really bad quality, but it'll get the job done. All right, you with me? I'm going to point you in just a second at my computer screen. I can straighten you out a little bit. You guys watching the edited version, you're going to skip all of this junk. All right. So evidently I took off, had a meeting, and never got back to this. We have here Rembrandt. 1, 2, 3, 4 Rembrandts, 1 Frans Hals, 2 Anders Zorns, 3 Anders Zorns, 1 Fragonard, 1 Boucher, maybe 2 Bouchers, or 2 Fragonards. Who else? That's enough. There could be many others. All right, and if I zoomed in, let's pick on, for a moment, let's pick on Frans Hals. And I can't remember if I've seen this particular painting. I may have at the Detroit Art Institute of Detroit. Bear with me, I'm going to pick it up here real quick. I saw a Frans Hals painting. I was 20 years old. And I'm going to give you the best view of this that I possibly can. And I do, it was one of those, one of those life-changing experiences. All right, so this is Frans Hals's, forgive the possessive, his most famous painting, The Laughing Cavalier. Looks pretty realistic. When you get in close, it's anything but realistic. It's wild and loose. History of human movement galore. Look at this. Sgraffito, scratching with maybe the handle of his brush right there. Every stroke here is, again, perfect, loose, and yet it achieves the effect. All right, to many of us in the world of art, now that's enough, I'm going to show you that now. Many of us, that's what I call real painting, okay? Why do I call it real? Because it's the convergence of realism with movement, physical movement of your hand. The artist's hand made a mark by moving, either with a brush or a pencil or a stylus or a pen or something like that. The artist's hand moved. All right. Now I do have several contemporary, just 2 artists I'm going to pick on, just to help simplify this, and I do want to bring you in real close now. I have 2 artists. Let me separate them here. They are Tibor Nagy, who I have talked about often on my broadcasts, and the other is a new one to me that I've just discovered in the last several months. One of you introduced, I forget, it might have been Barbara, I forget, introduced me to Christian Hook. Am I saying that right? Yep. All right. Christian Hook, he does basically 3 things: horses, equestrian art, figurative, and portrait. I have a sample of each one. Okay, here's one of his. And this guy, he's fairly young. He's in his 40s. He is winning awards left, right, and center, upside and down, all over Britain and I presume the rest of the world. And I'm all big on him right now because I just discovered him. Here's his horse. All right. I hope you're seeing now a connection between this and when I took my piece of charcoal and went like this and then started covering it up. Because that's basically what he does with his horse. He paints a horse and then he starts covering it up. Look at this. Here's the horse's neck, arched neck, mane, and big blob of blue paint. Here's the horse's face, and it looks to me like Christian took a stiff thing, something larger than not a palette knife, or maybe a giant palette knife, but more like a scraper, and just went and wiped off a big chunk of the horse's face. Look at this. Here's the horse's rump and his tail up in the air because he's active. And here's a big blue right through his tail, etc. Let's go into another one. So staying with Christian Hook for a minute. Here's one of his beautiful, he has a whole series of figurative Asian women. Here's a woman, looks like she's Japanese because it looks to me like she's in the traditional Japanese paper house, whatever there's a name for that. But look at this. The gray wall behind her completely chops through her back shoulder. This blue is meaningless, except, I guess under her chin there's that wall. You could conceive of that as blue, but over here it means nothing. And it goes chunk right into her chest and in her shoulder. Meaningless. Everywhere you look, there's marks that are going. Now, do you understand why a little while ago I was doing this? And how much I could cover up my portrait and it still looks like me? How much Christian Hook covers up. And this is why, absolutely why look at her hair. Her hair's just, dull, like maybe a raw umber or something like that. And he's taken something and scraped it. What is this, like Elvis on steroids hair? No. It's not supposed to be realistic at all. It's just a mark. It's just a movement. Okay, and then one more. Here's one of his world. I think he won the, some Britain portrait competition grand prize with this painting of. This is a close-up, by the way. The painting actually has more subject. But again, what's happening with his ear? Does a guy have like a gold earring in his? No. Nothing of the sort. What's this? Look here's a piece of his flesh, his forehead. Did he get punched real bad and he's got a skin tag? No, nothing of the sort. What's this thing? Does he have a big mole on his cheek? No, not at all. Here's more of his cheek. Look at his fist. He's got red. He's wearing these workout gloves, and he's got a part of his glove is going up into space. All over the place. There's blue gray dot in his forehead, a blue smudge right there in the crease of his smile, a real bright blue right. You're getting the point, aren't you? Well, let's go on to the other guy. These are two of my favorite contemporary artists. This guy I've talked about quite a bit. Some of you, maybe this is the first time you've ever seen him. This is Tibor Nagy, and not to be confused with the Tibor Nagy Gallery in New York City. Go figure. It must be a common name. He's from Eastern Europe somewhere. Jane, was that you? Was that you told me about him? Oh, good. I can't wait. Something about using a windshield wiper. I saw a little video of him, and he had like a big piece of cardboard. He just went across his painting. Oh, anyway, so here's different. This guy makes me sick. And I know you can't see this real well. I'll zoom in for the edited version. I'll put up digital copies of some of this stuff. This is a bus stop. Now, who in their right mind would think that a rainy street, some cars and a bus, and some people getting off the bus would make a good painting? Well, a good artist. We don't even know what this is. This is completely nondescript. I mean, I think there should be a building there, but I can't even make out a building. At first, I think there's nothing down here, and then go, oh my goodness, no, those are three men walking toward us. Maybe they have ties on. This guy's almost disappeared. All he has is a smudge for a head. It's not even a head-shaped smudge. It's just kind of a parallelogram, a trapezoid of orange for a head, and part of a shoulder, and maybe that's a hand. It's too low for a hand, really. Bad anatomy. I'm being facetious. He just disappears. What in the world is all this mess down here? Look at this bus. I mean, it's hardly there, except it's obviously. All right, do you hear me being happy? This is me having an aesthetic pleasure experience. It's called internal fire. I think it's the interior of a cathedral. And oh my goodness, he makes me sick. Tibor, I hate you. That's the highest compliment I can give a fellow artist. I hate you. Oh my goodness. All we have is the arch that if you've ever been in a cathedral, you know, you go, bingo, I recognize that. Columns and arch. And light hitting down at the altar. And maybe this is a silhouette of a person. I think it probably is. I'm not sure. You can make it whatever you want, but I think that's a person sitting there. One person, maybe. I don't even know what this stuff is. Those are obviously like lights. This one right here, it's hard to tell. Doesn't matter. Dang, that's good painting. Phew. Do you hear me? Let me stop. Let me pause right there for a second. Because this is me anyway. This is me. And this is my good friend who I like. I am very favorably inclined toward my friend Drew Blair. And he is the best airbrush artist in the world. And I get a kick out of this. I do. And when I look at this stuff, I think, man, what could be better than that? You with me? My hand goes up. I take it away. And I go, oh my God. We're on a completely different level. This is, forgive my language, Mom, I hope you're not listening. This is damned impressive. Damned impressive. Wow. I say, wow. Are you with me? And maybe I'm nuts, but then when I go here, I go, my knees get weak. If I let myself, I could get a tear in my eye. My jaw hangs open, and I don't even say, damn. I say, oh my God. And I kind of mean it. Of course, it's church, you know. That was all unplanned, y'all. You know that. All right, let's look at one more Tibor Nagy. I mean, who in the world would think, is that a bus or a streetcar? I think it's a streetcar. Look at the top of this building. Come on, Tibor, who told you you could paint? That is terrible. I can't even see the top of the building. Where's it stop? What happened to the bomb? Is this a bomb? It's a terrorist attack, maybe. It's a painting of a terrorist attack, Tibor. Oh, I see what you're doing now. You sure? I'm being silly, of course. Are you with me? I know there's some people. Obviously a street, some other cars, barely there. All right. So how about your painting and mine? Well, I'm not in your studio, but I am in mine. Now I come to my paltry little attempts. And by the way, this just happens to be, literally happens to be the painting that's on my easel right now. Some of you watched me start this painting last week, and I can't wait to get back to it. I look at it now and go, oh, wow, well, okay, it's got some nice stuff. There's a few places here and there where I'm a little bit Christian hookish, if I may, you know, like that light up there, that's not too bad. It's got a little Christian hook in it, okay, and down here, a little Tibor. I'm being a little facetious, you know that. But all of a sudden, when I came back to this, this is actually what sparked much of this whole teaching today, is these lines right here that completely obliterate the bottom edge of this. I don't mean completely, but all these abstract marks, I'm going, dang, I'm a little better painter than I thought I was. Just a little better, not much. I ain't no Tibor Nagy. I ain't no Christian Hook, that is for sure. And God help me, I sure ain't no Rembrandt. But I'm going in a good direction. Are you hearing me? Let's wrap this up. I'm not talking to you painters here. I mean, that's who I've been talking to the whole day, as you know. I'm talking to you painters. Most of you would say what I would say. I paint. I've been painting for a while. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I wish I was looser. Is that you? I bet it is, because only about 1% of the painters in the world don't fit that category. Less than 1%, I think. We all come out tight, and we have to learn how to get loose. Here's what I want to say. Most of us, we've heard that we're supposed to be loose, and we believe it. What I hope I've done for you today is proved to you that yes, you do want to get loose. You just were giving it lip service until now. But after today, and I think I wanted to do this lesson because dang, I wanted to hit myself upside the head with a 2x4. I wanted to say to myself, Nelson, when are you going to get serious? And I'm going, well, maybe on this painting. And that's what I'm going to say to you. So you've been saying you want to get loose. Now you know why. Until now, maybe it was kind of unclear. I hope now you get a little bit better. Dang. I can paint things that will impress people. Dang impressive. And there's nothing wrong with that. Do you hear me? Nothing wrong with impressing people. Nothing wrong with doing abstract paintings. I do them myself. But given the choice, I'd rather do something that takes me and you and every viewer to a whole nother level. Forgive me, I don't want to trigger anybody, but the word transcendent comes to mind. There's some magic going on in the world of two-dimensional beauty. We're just beginning to scratch the surface. Thanks for watching. Hey gang, for some reason, my Mevo wouldn't let me end that broadcast, so I just had to get back on, say hi to any of you that are still watching, and see if I can turn it off now. I have nothing to say. I do not look forward to editing that video, well, because it would take all day. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let's see now if I can turn this off so people aren't getting a spinning ball, okay?